been a couple days since Andrew Tate was arrested in Romania on charges of rape and human trafficking, and we'll have to see how that all plays out. But there's been something that the media has been reporting. Almost every single media organization is reporting this about his arrest. And as someone in the citizenship business, it just sounds wrong to me what the media keeps talking about. I'm going to tell you what that is. And I'm also going to tell you how Andrew Tate's arrest plays into his international diversification plan and what you need to know and what you need to avoid to make sure your international diversification plan is strong and you don't make some of the same mistakes. I'm Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of a company called Nomad Capitalist. We help people legally get multiple citizenships, residence permits in countries around the world. By doing that, you can legally reduce your taxes, set up businesses all around the world. And so Andrew Tate's diversification plan, which we've talked about before, has always been of interest to me because he really went further than almost anyone if what people say is to be believed. But when he got arrested, we'll talk about the diversification as part of the arrest in a moment, but the media kept reporting that his rebuttal video to Greta Thunberg, where he was sitting in his house in Romania and someone brought him pizza, was what gave him away because they had this pizza chain in Romania, Jerry's Pizza. And they said that police were watching that video and they saw the Jerry's Pizza, they saw the writing in Romania, they said, oh, he must be here. And it was the pizza boxes that gave him away. Now, the first things first, I thought to myself, if someone ever thought they were going to get raided, the solution would just be to only eat at international chains. Go to Pizza Hut, go to Domino's. They've got locations conveniently in 90 different countries, that Domino's pizza. If you make a rebuttal video to Greta Thunberg with a Domino's pizza, the only thing people will tell about you is that you have bad taste in pizza. So that's the solution. Only eat at Pizza Hut if you're going to be making these videos and you plan on having someone raiding your compound. But what I'm confused about is, number one, I think someone had sent me that he had made some video or posted something a couple days earlier that he was also in Romania, so I don't know why they needed the pizza box. But the media keeps saying he was nailed by the pizza box. And I said to myself, Romania, while a member of the European Union, is not a part of Europe's borderless Schengen area. So if you fly to Romania, you're going to go through a separate border procedure than you would flying to France. And I personally have gone from the Schengen area to Romania, and I can tell you, you go through a border checkpoint the same way you would going to Ireland, the same way you would going to Bulgaria or Cyprus as well. Croatia is no longer out of they've joined the group now. But Romania has its own separate border. And I can tell you, I've gone to neighboring states of Romania, and there's a separate procedure. It is not the same as just going to France and then just going all throughout Europe. And so you would think the government would know who was in their country. When you go, they scan your passport. And so I posted this, and I called up a couple folks on my network, because we all work in the immigration and passport and residence industry. We have people who, are experts in our network that used to work for, the Immigration Bureau and the government, that still do in some cases work for the Immigration Bureau. And so the idea from a lot of folks is, I was kind of thinking the same thing. How would Romania not know? What one person suggested was, well, the police are different than the immigration and information isn't widely shared. I think, you're seeing more and more information sharing, particularly in Western countries. I would imagine in the European Union, they're pushing all their countries to really do that. If you can get a warrant to arrest someone, I would imagine you could go and say, hey, is this guy even here? We want to know if we can arrest him. How can you not know if somebody is here? What someone else suggested was, being that Andrew Tate is alleged to have these many, many, many passports and different residence permits, maybe he has a different name in one of them, which to me also rings somewhat hollow. It's possible. I've never liked this name change thing, right? They call me the goody two-shoes of the offshore industry because I like just playing it straight. And I know someone who did a name change for kind of cultural reasons when they were naturalized in another country, and I just thought, this guy's gonna have a lot of problems. Even if he doesn't get in trouble, it's just gonna be a pain to explain why you have this different name. And so I don't know that is something, I think they would have put that together. If Andrew Tate has a residence permit to live in Romania, I think they would have put the pieces together. I also know from experience, there is one country that I have been to, I won't mention the country, but I think I've used 3 or 4 different passports. I first went with the US passport, and then I went with a passport that I generally wouldn't use, but I got a visa. I just wanted to get some stamps in that passport for fun. And then I eventually used a passport to go to that country that just kind of the normal passport after leaving the U.S. that would make the most sense to go there. And I remember I was flying with someone once, and they passed immigration. They got their stamp. They were waiting for me behind. And they said, oh, I could kind of see, like the person's door was just wide open, and I could see they scanned your passport, and pictures of your other passports came up. I can attribute that to nothing other than that country has good systems that link things together. I have the same name. I have the same birth date. Some other data certainly could match up. And so they have some system. This is not an EU country, by the way. They have some system that it pulls it up. And so I literally had to have a lawyer that we work with in that country write me a letter. They eventually stopped asking me. But they kept asking me, why don't you use your US passport? Which it's like, well, I mean, this passport also works. Why do you care? But they're so obsessed with the idea, like, but you have a US passport, use that one. And then I said, I don't have a US passport because I'd renounced it. My passport's sitting in a shredder. The guy says, no, I see the picture of your passport. So he validated what my friend said that had seen all the passports come up. I see it expires in, I think, 2025. I said, yeah, that's great. It's not in my possession. It's in the possession of the U.S. government, and they've shredded it or burned it or done whatever they did to it. And they just didn't understand that, because people in certain parts of the world don't understand why you would give up a U.S. passport. And so I eventually got the lawyer to write a letter in both English and the local language explaining it. And of course, after that happened, I was never asked again. And so the idea that, I mean, with all the AI, all the facial recognition, all the everything, even if you had a different name, to me, that would be picked up on. One of the things that I heard, some of these digital nomad types who are always trying to, skirt the rules somehow, a number of years ago was, oh, if you had a second passport, can you use that to go to Europe, to the Schengen area, which again, Romania is not part of, for 90 days. You leave, and then you come back on the other one. Technically not how it's supposed to work, right? Because you're a person who's supposed to be there 90 out of every 180 days without a residence permit. And so it's not just per passport, it's per person. That's the intention of the rule. And I think that Europe has certainly gotten better at figuring out who's who. Same name, same birth date, same everything. Yeah, you're the same person, you're in violation. So I wouldn't screw around with that kind of stuff. And so that's why I asked myself, why is it that nobody in the media picked up on the fact that pizza boxes really shouldn't be the thing giving people away? I mean, maybe it's a tip-off, but you think if you're putting together a case of this magnitude, I mean, these are some very serious charges. And I'm not here to comment on anything about Andrew Tate. I'm just here to say, as someone who surrounds himself with people in this space, it sounds very odd. Why is the media reporting this? I don't know if there's any indication that the government said that this is how they found him, but the media thinks like, oh, it's the pizza boxes, Greta Thunberg got him, and that's all there is to it. Now, what does this say about his ability to get further diversification? And the answer is, I think it will be very difficult. Now, we made an episode where I talked about Andrew Tate's diversification strategy. I am someone who has multiple residence permits, has multiple citizenships, has multiple homes. I can tell you, you really need someone to manage it at a certain point. If you want me to talk more about that and what my strategies are to manage it, leave a comment below, and I may talk more about that in the coming weeks, how I manage all this different stuff in different countries. So the idea that if I'm Andrew Tate, who allegedly, again, it's more than a dozen passports, I mean, at a certain point, you just don't want any more. Right? I mean, for me, maybe one more passport would give me everything I'd ever wanted. But if he wanted to get more residence permits or more passports, I mean, he's going to have to submit, in almost all cases, a criminal record, even for a residence permit. And we've seen a few countries that didn't used to require a police record that now require a police record. Now, some countries just require you to bring a police record from just your country of citizenship. And so if he's not a Romanian citizen and the country where you want to move to only requires you to share your nationality that you want to come to their country as, you show them the one passport, you show them the police report. But more and more you're seeing countries getting sophisticated, especially a Western country, especially an advanced economy. They're going to say, okay, where all of you lived in the last 5 years, which is an odd question for someone like myself. I suppose for Andrew Tate, anyone who's nomadic, right? How do you define living? At what point am I considered to be living in a country, right? I mean, having a residence permit doesn't mean live in a country. Having a citizenship doesn't mean live in a country, right? I mean, what defines living? And you see like some of the Caribbean citizenship buy investments, they put a day count on it. But anywhere that requires you to bring a police report, they don't want someone who's been accused of rape. I heard of a story where someone was accused, and the idea from all the citizenship by investment countries was, hey, listen, if you're going to be acquitted, then we'll look at it, and we'll look at the fact pattern, and perhaps if it was just a baseless allegation, perhaps we could proceed in issuing you the citizenship. I can tell you that there are some citizenship programs where just the whiff, just the smell of something is going to not be interesting to them, right? So if you have citizenship by investment, I've done it a couple times, I mean, you're going through a rather rigorous background check. They're looking into, of course, your criminal history, they're looking into litigation history. Doesn't mean you can never be sued, but if you've been sued 100 times, I mean, that's going to be a black mark against you. If you've had a run-in with the police now twice for Andrew Tate in 2022, that is going to be an issue. And so I think that if, he's going to have a hard time getting more passports. I don't know if he ever obtained citizenship in Malta, which has a citizenship program. They now have a multi-year look back to where if you get into trouble for a number of years after getting the citizenship, they can go back and take it. And you've seen more related to the war in Ukraine, where Ukrainian President Zelensky has gone to places like Cyprus and turned up the heat on them to say, oh, you have some Russians, maybe there's some reasons why they shouldn't have gotten your citizenship. You should cancel their citizenship. And so Malta's program and some of the other programs in Europe that used to have, like Bulgaria had a program, Cyprus had a program, can go back, right? Obviously, anywhere in the world, if you lie, right? If Andrew Tate were to somehow apply for citizenship now and say, no, I've never been arrested, gets the citizenship because they don't find this, he would be in trouble. They would take that. That's immigration fraud. But I think just being upfront, if he is acquitted, if he's let off, and I know there's some people saying, oh, this is just a publicity stunt. This is just creating more theater. But if this is a real issue, and he wanted to go and get more passports, I can tell you this is just not going to look so good. So those are my thoughts on Andrew Tate and the arrest situation. Certainly, I would advise not to get arrested, probably a general good idea, and not to do anything to where you should be arrested. That's probably good life advice. One of the things that came up, by the way, just as a side note, was, he was only living in a $700,000 compound. When you live in a country like Romania, a $700,000 compound, I saw the area kind of north of Bucharest, just in the county above Bucharest. I've spent some time in Bucharest and in Romania. I mean, you get a decent amount for your money. And so that may be equivalent to a $3 or $4 million property. Quite frankly, the thing that I've said about living overseas is you just detach yourself from the keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, if you go to Romania and you meet other people there, that's fine. You'll meet other people who accept that you live in a $700,000 compound. So this idea that everyone who makes money should be living in some $10 million house in Romania, that was something that people kind of were commenting on. Oh, that's all his house is worth. Who cares, quite frankly? I'm not here defending. I'm not here attacking Andrew Tate. Those are the facts. Those are the things that stood out to me. And what you should know in getting your second citizenship is you got to stay out of trouble if you want to make sure you can get residences and citizenships, because, again, sometimes even an arrest can disqualify someone.